Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome into it, Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow Thursday. It is Thursday, isn't it? We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery, courtside at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Chris Schmidt and staying, quite honestly, is the Hall of Fame coach Jeff Smith, Lincoln Southeast, and, of course, assistant with Danny Nee and Nebraska basketball during those just incredible years where March meant NCAA tournament action. Coach Smith, we saw a little girls basketball earlier. We'll have Gretna Millard North later. Good to be with you as conference tournaments in full flex right now.
Yeah, it's really good to be here. I love being on the sidelines and watching in person here. We got to see one of the best girls players in the state with Britt Prince at Elkhorn North. Everybody's recruiting her. Let's hope she stays around here so we can watch her some more.
She is outstanding. One of the other top guards in the state, of course, Kennedy Williams with Lincoln Southwest is going to be in action for Championship Friday. Southwest going to be in the title game again. We'll hear from Coach Tim Berda here in hour two. Let's set the lineup for you. Brandon Vogel coming up next segment. Coach Feakin of Gretna around 4:40. And then some college football and some NFL in hour two. Jeremiah Sirles, our favorite Husker, and Viking and Charger and Carolina Panther. I'm missing a team. Oh, yeah, Buffalo. And then Gary Barnett with us at 5:25. And then Coach Barrett rounds us out before we gear up and get going for the Gretna and Millard North game. But, Coach, want to start off a heartbreak for Nebraska basketball and a second half rally for Northwestern. I want to get your take on all things Big Red basketball. Fred is back, we know. We'll get to staff and roster in a moment, but let's focus on the game for a second. And you're up 15 with 15 to go, and as they say, old habits die hard, and Nebraska just went back to being the Nebraska that she didn't like for about 2.5 months this season.
Yeah, you and I were calling a game, trying to keep an eye on that Nebraska game, and a eye on the game we were calling. And the first half was wonderful. They were playing like they had the previous 3 games, and they were sharing the ball. Nobody was caring who was scoring as long as they were playing good defense and boxing out. Built a nice 14-point lead. And then you kind of hear that term hero ball being thrown around. A lot of guys trying to make plays. And again, I've kind of said before on this show, maybe not selfish, but confident and, think they can make a play for the team. And I hope it's not all selfishness, but it cropped its ugly head up a little too much this season. They kind of went back to that one-on-one type stand and watch basketball, which it just wasn't there. It wasn't how they, were excelled. And so, now it's to where you do the player meetings, and they figure out first who's coming back and who's moving on, and then you got to do the rebuild again.
You do, and, Nebraska had problems with Northwestern zone. They switched to a 2-3, and Nebraska didn't do well from outside. And quite honestly, it was just rough to see a couple of decisions by Verge to try and take it into traffic, and then a chance to tie the game, and seconds left. You have Trey McGowan's dribble into 2 guys, and there were guys open to kick out and find, and, it's just a bad play and a microcosm. Nebraska showing how good they can be and then how errant they can be. Coach Smith thought here with staff with Fred Hoiberg. Changes probably, likely. I know Lesnar's back or has just been here for a year, I should say, but I think you can see development from guys. So I don't know that he's got a U-Haul. I think Coach Gates has done a really good job, and he was kept on from the Tim Miles staff, and I know Gates' brother's done great work at the mid-major level, and he might be is a hot name in coaching circles to take maybe a different Power 5 gig. So we'll see what options Armand has. And then, of course, Abdel Massi's been the architect of the talent acquisition. And we'll see if he's here or if he finds a different role somewhere else. But you're going to have a shakeup, no doubt, first and foremost from a coaching standpoint, and then it's got to be different from a recruiting standpoint as well moving forward, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I think you have to remodel your recruiting. I think you have to have more guys involved and really spread out and cover the country a little bit better. I'd like to see a little more local flavor in getting some kids here, too. We've missed out on a few of the generational players here, and that's hard to watch. We're going to get to watch Jason Green here in a little while, and he's just a fantastic player that Creighton got.
He's staying home.
He is staying home, and that's, and Creighton's has it going really well right now. But I think there has to be a shakeup. And sometimes guys want to get out. You lose 20-some games, the guys want to kind of see the writing on the wall and they want to get out, and that could happen too. I just wonder, like Doc Sadler, he's, basically in the office and sitting on the sideline but not on the floor. He probably wants to go out and coach again, I would assume. And so I think there'll definitely be some shakeup. I think there'll be some remodeling, retooling of procedures and recruiting and the recruiting procedures. And that's probably something that Trev and Coach Hoiberg talked about and agreed upon, and we'll see what comes of it.
Jeff Smith is with us, Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow Thursday here at PBA, as we are lying in wait for Gretna and Millard North tonight. So some of the recruits that are on the table here, you have the JUCO here. You have Blaze Kita, the Coffeyville JUCO. Top 150 guard from Rivals. Ramil Lloyd out of Sierra Canyon, California. Jarmarquis Lawrence out of Rosalie Catholic, New Jersey. And then you have Denham Dawson that's here. So another good recruiting class. And from all sounds of it, Coach Smith, these guys may be a little more physical, a little more blue-collar than past recruiting classes.
Yeah, and I think Lawrence is supposed to be a kind of an elite shooter. The thing, and Ramil Lloyd's from a really good program at Sierra Canyon. You always like it when they come from winning programs and have experienced that winning. We need Kita, 6'11", 240. He's supposed to be one of the better big men in JUCO ranks right now at Coffeyville. We need him. We need those bodies. We need rebounding. We need strength inside. We need scoring around the basket. Nebraska retooled their offense about 3 times this year, and one of the things that I really liked that they did was get Walker on the block, isolate him at the high post, and got away a little further away from the 5-out offense. I think Big Ten basketball, I think Coach kind of looked at it and said, we've got to get more around the basket and collapse defenses a little bit. You mentioned the zone Northwestern playing. Zones can get you to stand around. And when you have a 5-out offense that moves as much as Nebraska, and then all of a sudden somebody jumps into a zone and you're standing in spots, not moving as much, that can really change your rhythm. And so there is something to be said about putting people at the high post, putting people in the short corner against the zone, posting people against man-to-man, playing inside-out basketball. I think one of the biggest reasons Nebraska played better is because they shot better. They shot better because they got better shots. Alonzo was kicking it out more to step in threes. They were putting it inside to Walker more, and he'd kick it out every once in a while, although he scored most of the time at a very high pace. But still, guys were helping and starting to help inside. He was drawing and kick it out, and those step-in threes, that's at least a 10, probably 20% better shot than the step-back threes or the 3 off the dribble. So their percentages were better because of those reasons. And I hope that's a retool for next season, that they come in and establish some post play early. And there's nothing wrong with 5-out. You can run it with certain lineups on the floor, but you got to get some balance. You got to have balance in everything, and I think you got to have balance in your offense with some post play. And then when Verge learned to kick the ball out better, that was really effective, and he looked really good as a point guard these last couple of weeks.
He grew a lot and put a lot on film. Walker needs help, and Walker has been a thoroughbred for Nebraska, and he needs more help with box outs. He needs more help with defense in the paint. He's playing He's punching above his weight class when it comes to what he's asked to do versus his actual size with some of the monsters on the block in the Big Ten. The question remains, and he's back in town, has been around state title weekend here at PBA. You have Bryce McGowan's, and Bryce's future, I'm sure his grade will come back in that late first round, early second round. That's the projection right now, anywhere from 25 to 31 in the first round. I've seen Orlando a couple of different spots. I've seen first or second pick in the second round. Had a tough night yesterday with a 2 for 10 with that wrist issue. Needs to get bigger and stronger, but has shown, unlike many freshmen who hit the wall, Coach Smith, he excelled. He thrived down the stretch, and he put some time in with how he was eating, what he was eating, and time in the weight room. So I think if he comes back, he's a dude like Iowa or Wisconsin has in lottery picks. If he comes back, I don't know if Trey comes back either. I would put your money and my money down that both are gone, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I don't know if Trey has the skills yet to go play professionally, even overseas. I think he needs to work on his shooting a little bit more, clean up his ball handling some. Bryce, there's no doubt, to show improvement, show the way he did throughout the season, even gain strength and learn to play with physicality, shows that he has pro tendencies. Mm-hmm. He worked like a pro this year. He came in, not very strong, really not understanding shot selection, just wanting to shoot NBA threes. Later in the season, he starts taking it to the basket. Great free throw shooter. Started to play a little better on the defensive end. He was kind of a defensive liability at the start of the year, and then by the end of the year, he was much more active and cared a lot more about his defense. He would have a great year if he would come back, but I'm just afraid it's not going to happen. There's too much money out there, and that's a situation where, Coach Hoiberg knows the GMs. They're going to know pretty quickly where he's going to be drafted with Coach Hoiberg's connections. My thing is, I would love to see a timeline on the portal. The portal's here to stay, right?
Yep.
I was laughing because I saw a tweet from Walker, and he said in his public speaking, I say too much, because he's on, these guys are on the radio quite a bit. I don't tweet very often because he said, how do I work on that? So I tweeted back at him, why don't you come back another year and work on it, because I'd love to have him back for another year.
I saw the tweet from @Coach J Smith 14.
Rare tweet, very rare.
And that was Walker's post game. And Derek, I think, and Nebraska fans hope he's back. Don't know about Lat. I mean, I see a lot of potential in Lat, but I don't see Lat as a guy that should be starting or you can rely upon to start. I think he's a role guy, and he's just too inconsistent. He's got the measurables, and he can shoot and hit threes, but but the defensive stuff and the boxing out. Tominaga has been, bless his heart, but a nightmare defensively for sure. Can kind of get going offensively, but your plus-minus games out the window in that. So some of that evaluation was off, and you need to be better if you're Nebraska.
Yeah, I think Coach Hoiberg's got to tell each and every one of them as they're meeting, because that's the first thing you do is you have your individual meetings, and you got to lay it out there. And you probably have to tell a guy like Lat, we're going to try to recruit over you. We didn't win enough. There's pressure on us. I thought he improved defensively.
I thought he got better.
With his want to.
Yeah.
Definitely. But offensively, he didn't do what he needed to do, I don't think, as a starting power forward in the Big Ten. We need more. He could almost play three, but I don't know if he's quick enough. So, if he would accept that role of coming off the bench and we have somebody that plays well above him, we're going to be a much better team. Breidenbach needs to improve his footwork, his foot speed. I think he'll shoot the ball better as his career goes.
He's tough in the paint,
and he's longer, and he'll rebound. So he's got a chance. But yeah, I think you have to try to recruit over every player you have, and that's, they do it in football. They tell the kids, we've got it. We're going to try to get better, and that's how you get better with recruiting. And kids just understand that. And then if you can't, then you got to go and you got to. But we have to build a program with returning players and get older and get an established point guard our point guard played, Verge played great the last 2 weeks. He assist to turnover ratio was fantastic. He led the, Big Ten in assists. But now we got to retrain a guy, whether that's Karan McPherson, who redshirted all year, or somebody else. Now we got to start over. We got to get a guy that established himself as our point guard and a backup, in my opinion, for 3 years, and because that's what winning teams have. Well,
you're going to be seeing Chucky for 2 more years, and you look how his contributions went, all freshman team along with Bryce. And Nebraska, a lot of work to do to try and make it better for year 4 for Fred Hoiberg. But you saw a glimpse, about 90 seconds here, Coach. Did what you see at the end of the season signal improvement, or was it just better?
Well, I think it signaled improvement of this system's gonna work better.
Yes.
And players kind of getting it towards the end of the year. So that contributed to the improvement. It does show that the way they played can work, though. If you make, I thought for the first 2 years of Fred's tenure here, we just didn't make shots, and some good shots. You've got to be able to knock down shots. But like we talked about just a little bit ago, some of that is your selection and the type of shots you're getting.
Jeff Smith, Hall of Fame coach, Lincoln Southeast, and of course assistant at Nebraska with Danny Nee. We'll step away. Brandon Vogel is coming up. It's Roadshow Thursday, live from PBA. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes, that's awesome.
Back to it at Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery, courtside here at PBA. We are gearing up for Gretna as they take on defending state champ Millard North. Winding moments here, beginning of the fourth quarter with Scott and Adams Central. It's 40-20. And Scott looking to find their way to the final against Elkhorn North. We welcome in, if they would have more Brandon Vogels on a team, well, there'd be more championship banners in western Nebraska. Managing editor with HailVarsity.com and magazine, Brandon Vogel, with us at Brandon L. Vogel. Vogues, state tournament time make you smile or sad?
A little bit of both. Most of my experiences with the state tournament as a spectator were very positive. By the time it got to the point where we had a team that theoretically could make it to the state tournament and didn't, then it got a little bit sad. But overall, a fun time in Lincoln, a spot and an event that I have a lot of fond memories of. So I'm happy for those that are getting to experience that.
Vogues, how close were you guys to making your way to state?
Well, we went 20-2 in our senior year, and then lost in the district finals. So that close, which, hey, you lost. It was win and get in, and that was the only path. So I guess you could say, well, you weren't that close, but we were a pretty good team, and came up a little bit short.
You guys must have got hosed with the wild card then, didn't you?
There was no wild card. There was no wild card then. So it was what it was.
We are opening up wounds and pouring salt in. We're going to move on and talk some spring football. Vogues, give me 2 reasons for optimism based off of what you've heard in the media and how things are going to go. I mean, they're going to pad up tomorrow for the first scrimmage, which will be nice. But are you optimistic, or is this more lip service?
Yeah, it's hard to disprove that it's lip service, and that's the case every spring. Like, this is the constant battle that you have of, like, okay, this sounds good. And, people at this time, and throughout the offseason, trend towards optimism. It's all fine and good. Like, it's probably the healthiest way to live. That said, one reason for optimism, and this is something that could merit, like, watching going forward, as I don't expect the the world of transfer quarterbacks in particular to slow down. I'm just watching Casey Thompson and Chubba Purdy speak, and Chubba hasn't even gotten to practice yet, but both strike me as pretty mature guys. So, maybe there's something in there of, like, you look at Chubba Purdy. He went to Florida State, a pretty heralded recruit, and through an injury, whatever other factors were in there, didn't pan out. And Casey Thompson had to bide his time. He had to wait behind a really good quarterback in Sam Erlinger to get on the field at Texas. So I think being through those experiences and not having experience for the first time helps. And even Logan Smothers, he's sort of the guy where you kind of look at him from afar and say, well, he's the scholarship guy. He's the guy they recruited, but this is the transfer era, and it might just be a little bit of a tough beat. I thought he exhibited extreme kind of maturity as well. So listening to all the quarterbacks talk on Wednesday, I came away thinking, this is a group that's pretty level-headed, that's been in the game for a little bit, and that's probably good for Nebraska. Second reason for optimism probably goes back to the experience at Vogel, but this time it's Mark Whipple. I don't want to hype up things too much. This still has to work out. But I really enjoy kind of the calming, like, been here, done this before presence that Mark Whipple brings. And you don't get that without somebody who's been in football for as long as he has.
Brandon Vogel's with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine. Vogues, we're going to reconnect. The phone was getting a bit machine gunnish, so Elijah's going to reconnect with you, and we'll get you right back on here in a moment. Numbers to get in, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at HailVarsity.com. We're here at PBA, courtside, and getting ready for Gretna and Millard North. We'll have Coach Feakin on coming up in about 10 minutes or so. Head man for Gretna. He's an incredible story. He is an inspiration, and his kids are playing great ball for him. In hour two, Jeremiah Sirles going to be with us, and Gary Barnett. Vogues, we are back. Thanks for dealing with that. So I think your point on optimism, big time, and I think Whipple is a source of that along with the quarterbacks. I want to go to the offensive line for a moment and the topic of firing off the ball. Why do you think, and it's okay to just turn the page and move forward. I get it. You have Donnie Raiola coaching the O-line. You have guys you need to develop on the O-line. All that being said, what was a disconnect, in your opinion, with the offensive line, not just last year, but for a few years, it sounds like, according to Scott Frost?
Yeah, that one's curious because, firing off the ball doesn't seem to me like one of those schematic things. Like, I guess theoretically it could be, where you're like, well, we're trying to do something else. But from what I know of offensive line play, there's not a whole lot. Like, it's low man wins. It's kind of toughness and aggressiveness, which I would put firing off the ball under that category, sort of carries the day. So I don't know. That might be one of those things where it's a talking point in the spring. These coaches, they all get asked about, like, hey, what's new? I mean, that's kind of the baseline expectation during this period, as you go in there and say, hey, why is this going to be different to one effect or another? And that might be one of those. That said, if it's an emphasis now for Nebraska, it probably does help to have a new start there just with a new coach, because you can outline right from the beginning, like, come hell or high water, this is what I want us to do. Why didn't it happen that way earlier? It's really hard to say, and I don't want to speculate on it too much, but yeah, everything worked at UCF, right? Like, you went from 0-12 to 6-7, and then to 13-0. So it would have been easy to just kind of let people go and do what they needed to do, or vice versa, if that wasn't the case and that produced success at UCF. So it's hard to say. It comes up frequently. It's one of those things that I think is kind of a prerequisite for coaching the offensive line. But if Nebraska feels like they're getting more of it now, great. We'll see if that's the case in the fall.
Well, it's going to have to be the case, Vogues, in the Big Ten. Brandon Vogel with us. HailVarsity.com and magazine at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Vogues, the survey back with Memorial Stadium, and, it'd be nice if we had more comfy seats, i.e. that we being the fans, but just win some freaking games. That's the echo. Totally get it. Alcohol sales, a topic of conversation. One has to go, alcohol or gambling. You can keep one, you got to punt one. What is it, alcohol or gambling?
If it were me, and we're living in a world where you can just wager from your phone in the state of Nebraska, that probably increases my enjoyment of the game as much as being able to have a beer or a glass of wine. So I'd go with that, and both of them to excess present some issues, and you hope you can. I mean, it's not Nebraska's responsibility to keep that in check, but you have to be mindful of it. But I would probably take the live wagering if that's a possibility, and be content just having a beer before the game or after.
Brandon, live wagering in the press box, good idea or bad idea?
That's probably a bad idea. I will say that you can I know you can set up geofences with all of these various apps. Probably got to geofence the press box, because that's a little bit problematic just from an ethical standpoint, I think.
What about beer in the press box? Is that dangerous?
No, that'd probably improve things, to be honest.
I like that.
It's probably best to just keep the press box as it is. Like Memorial Stadium, let's listen to the fans and get their upgrades. The press box is fine. They do okay up there.
Good work, Brandon Vogel with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter, where you follow him. We're courtside here at PBA. Gretna head coach Brad Feakin coming up in a few minutes. Well, Vogues, we'll wind down and throw a basketball question at you. How many available Huskers return for Fred in 2022-2023? How much of the rosters turn over? Is it all of it? Is it most of it? Are you going to go with the Walker draft pick that he's back? How do you feel looking forward for Nebraska basketball? Tough one to finish yesterday.
Yeah, it was tough. And it was nice to see the team play as well as it did over this final stretch of the season. Getting a win over Northwestern, which if they'd played Iowa and Iowa was going to shoot like they did today, nobody was beating Iowa. But all that said, I think at the end of the day, if you're just literally saying, is this more than half? I think the majority of the roster is probably going to turn over. Then that's going to be, another big challenge for Hoiberg and company going into next year, because, okay, maybe you got a little momentum here at the end of it, but what does it mean if a lot of your key contributors, and they would be your key contributors, aren't back?
Well, you got to start from square one again, most likely. The silver lining, this sounds offensive, but those key contributors had 7 wins this year, too. So Reset's not awful. Folks, have a great rest of your Thursday. Enjoy some basketball this weekend and also some football. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you, guys.
There he is, Brandon Vogel with us. A quick timeout. Coach Feakin next on Hail Varsity.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio. Boys State 2022, and Gretna having an incredible season and postseason. Coach Brad Feakin with us. So am I going to get hung up on here, Coach, if we talk about a well-known three-point attempt artist named Ben Bolte?
You may. I said I'm usually pretty scared on who I tell that. 50% of the time it works out pretty well. 50% it doesn't. So I'm hoping this is the good side.
Dear friend, dear family friend, and man, we love watching him snap hook into the woods. Anywho, we'll focus on some basketball, Coach. Congratulations on an incredible season, Coach, and I want to get your thoughts on tonight's matchup, of course, against Millard North, and just where the team's at here emotionally and physically as you head in.
I think our group's pretty good right now. Obviously, we kind of had things going the way we wanted against Central and kind of let that slip, but we didn't shake or it didn't blink. It says a lot about our kids and their belief in themselves and where they stand right now. So I think about any team we see, I think we're going to have a fighting chance, and that's all you can ask at this time because you're going to play good teams the rest of the way out.
Coach Feakin with us here on Hail Varsity ahead of tip-off between Gretna and Millard North. What is it about this group? I look at your roster right now. You got a couple seniors, but a lot of underclassmen, sophomores, and juniors. To speak to the development of Gretna and just how these kids have kind of matured at a younger age.
I think it's the credit to the kids, obviously, and them following the game plan that this program and staff have kind of set up. The time we spent, I think, goes unrivaled by almost anybody in the state, I guess. We spent a lot of time working on skill development. We spent a lot of time shooting it, and we require a lot of time from kids, and time is work, and these kids embrace that, and these kids don't look at it as work. There's a chance for them to get better and improve themselves as long as and our team and our program. So it goes back to kids like it always does, and we just kind of give them the blueprint of the guideline, and they followed it to a T.
On a serious note, with your time in Hastings and how good your teams were, what have you taken with you from your experience in high school and you've applied to your coaching life?
To be honest, our Hastings team was, my junior and senior year, we were never the most talented, but how we approach things, our basketball IQ, how we trust each other, I think those are all things you can take with you and be successful. Coach Sajovic, obviously, an amazing coach, and I was lucky to have him as a high school coach. But those things that he instilled are, transferred to Gretna as well.
Coach, some keys tonight as we'll have the coverage here on KFOR right at 6, Gretna and, of course, Millard North. Keys for you. What are you going to tell the kids?
Just play. We've spent a bunch of time, putting them in spots, and at this point of the year, it's more their team than mine. It's my program, their team. Just play. These lights are no different than the ones at Gretna, the ones wherever else we play. Just compete the right way and be us, and don't get out from under us, and we should be fine.
When it comes to your wins, you've had a lot of big-time wins. You guys have been ranked in the top 10 a lot of the season as well. But was there a tipping point game that maybe infused some confidence, or did you sense that with your kids going into the season?
I honestly think that the Bell West beat us by 30 in the holiday tournament. And I didn't think we played well, but I thought there was 10, 11 days in the middle of the season. You don't get those where we just got back to us, just chance for us to practice in our gym with just us and our kids. And I thought that was our turning point. We came off that and we just got beat by Bell West by 30, and then we beat Bell West at our place. I thought that was a really big game for us, but the leading up to it was the most important part. Just being up with us in practice and the expectations and holding kids to a standard and holding kids to the fire about doing things right or wrong was a big difference for us.
Brad Feakin with us, head coach Gretna, and concerns about Millard North before we say goodbye.
Many concerns. Obviously, they're very, very talented. They're the defending champs. Until someone beats them, they're going to be the defending champs. So they have an amazing player in Green. They have a Hall of Fame coach in Cannon. There's plenty of concerns, but ours is going to be with us. So that's kind of where we stand with it with this game.
Coach, best of luck. Thanks for a few minutes.
Thanks, appreciate it. You guys do a great job. Take care.
Good stuff from the head man at Gretna. The Dragons trying to advance to a state championship showdown. The defending champs in front of Gretna, Millard North and Gretna. I said KFOR during that interview. It is an ESPN Lincoln tip-off at 6 tonight. Should be awesome. We'll run down Jeremiah Sirles and get his take on breakfast in Lincoln. Specifically what Will, Compton, and the Bussin' crew have done. Now, they were on site doing their show, their podcast, and a sit-down with Casey Thompson. Can't wait for Will and company, friend of the show, to hear that. But they stopped for breakfast at a pretty well-known chain that no one sneezes at. And I'm going to have to blow the whistle, man, on breakfast choices. And again, no payment. This is not endorsement for financial gain. Elijah, you and I would army crawl across our wonderful parking lot, our station parking lot that, let's be straight, there's enough potholes in that thing to swallow humans and vehicles.
Yep.
We'd army crawl over to Virginia's. I mean, I'm a little bummed that Compton didn't fire up either, Highway Diner or Virginia's. He went to a famous chain breakfast restaurant spot. I guess convenience was king today.
Yeah, I got to throw out, Penelope's Little Cafe is awesome, too.
That is wonderful on 48th.
Yeah, so many great local spots they could have hit from, you said Virginia's, Penelope's, Highway Diner. I'm sure I'm even missing a couple here. You got Muchachos. They got a pretty good breakfast in downtown Lincoln as well if you're more into the Tex-Mex scene. Daily Owns if you just want, something a little more chain, quickly. There's so many great Lincoln options, but, at the end of the day, that's not my problem where they want to go eat their breakfast.
No, listen, it's not a problem. It's just, all right, I don't know that Taylor has been to Lincoln outside of when Michigan got curb stomped back in 2012.
Yeah,
I don't know that he's been here since then, and I doubt that was that Brady Hoke, the Fighting Hoax. I doubt that Brady let those kids out to roam and eat breakfast.
Yeah, you're not getting a full sense of Lincoln of the chain restaurant establishment that they picked.
And all of us have gone there. It was pretty popular in high school. There's one just down the road from our alma mater of Southeast.
Yes, there was.
They let you smoke in there at the time.
Did they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they got rid of that before my time.
Yes, they did, I hear. So, yeah, we'll have to hit Sirles up about his breakfast stops back in the day with him and Butch and the O-line crew, where they went. All right, we'll wind down this first hour.
Oh, wait, how can I forget? One more breakfast spot. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it because it's probably the one I've hit the most in the past year. Engine House Cafe down in Havelock.
Yeah,
come on.
Havelock spot's wonderful.
Another great spot.
It is, and we've just gone local for you. Beautiful. We'll wind down hour one here at PBA. Sirles on the way. Gary Barnett coming up. Coach Hurrdat of Lincoln Southwest next hour.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio, Hour 1. We're here at PBA. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal. Yay or nay on the Khalil Mack news with the NFL. I know Major League Baseball is going to be back in business. A lot of free agents are saying, sign me today. That'd be awesome. It's nice that baseball is going to get back at it after the first 2 weeks are punted. You as a baseball fan, I assume you'll still go. I know I'll still take Junior to see the Yankees. Against my better judgment. But Khalil Mack, man, he is on the block to the Raider. Check that. The wrong L.A. team, because L.A.'s not in L.A. anymore. The Chargers are going to trade for him and team him up with Bosa for a second-round pick for this upcoming draft and a second-round pick for 2023 and also a sixth-round pick. My question is this: how much great football is left in Mack? Had a great year with the Raiders, and when Gruden got to town, they didn't mesh. Traded him to Chicago, killed it for that first year, and even his second year in Chicago. But he's been pretty injury-prone. He's not been the same guy. And as nice as running backs are, where there's about a 3.5, 4 year window where you get elite running back play, it feels to me like you get that too out of your defensive line play. You're going to have guys have about a 3 to 5 year spurt if they're upper echelon, like a Von Miller, like a Watt, of course, like a Reggie White. I mean, go down the list. You can't put up 21 sacks every year. And Aaron Donald's been about it. He's been about as consistent as you get for 7 years. We love Sue. He's been great. But Sue's had about 3 incredible years. And then there's been some that haven't lived up to his best years, right? What's the happy medium when it comes to your production out of a defensive lineman? And at some point, you just got to kind of gauge it and say, all right, time to move on. And I think Mac, as many years as he's been in the league, going on 8 or 9, I think it's okay to make that trade and get some picks. And I think he's a nice piece for what you have with the Chargers, teaming him with Bosa. I think this could work for both.
Yeah, you asked the question right whenever you let off, is how much good football does he have left in him, Khalil Mack? And the answer is I don't want to know, but I'm going to have to learn this season. That's what scares me is you mentioned teaming up with Joey Bosa. That means you got to really...
He's going after your new quarterback is what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, really, you got 2 elite pass rushers. I'll still put Khalil Mack in that elite pass rusher category. He hasn't been up to what we expected in the past 2 years or so, but you can also put that on the Bears' defense falling off ever since Vic Fangio left as their defensive coordinator. So you now pair him up with Bosa. You probably can't give extra attention to them both every single play. Maybe on a 3rd down and 8, you can chip with a running back and leave a tight end in there. But it limits an offense, and it really makes that front 7 of the Chargers a lot more formidable, a lot more scary sitting here as a Broncos fan. So AFC West is going to be wild next season. Best division in football as I see it right now, and I don't see a way that can change moving forward. And it's going to be the arms race stacking up. You got to expect the Chiefs probably going to pick up a pass rusher in the draft if they can. Broncos sounds like they're in on trying to get Von Miller back into town, get another pass rusher. That's what's going to be a premium in the AFC West. With all these good quarterbacks, you need some pass rushers to get after them.
Kansas City's routinely had upper double-digit sack guys. The Chargers do. Denver's been great at it. Oakland, Vegas, excuse me. I was 0 for 2 that segment on football teams not in L.A.
Yeah, that's one for the swear jar.
It's a full swear jar. Sirles is next on Hail Varsity.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. It's Hour 2, Hail Varsity Radio on the road here at PBA Boys State Basketball Semis tonight as Millard North, top-ranked, seeking back-to-back championships. Gretna in their way. Tip-off at 6 right here on ESPN Lincoln with Coach Jeff Smith and myself, Elijah Herbal, standing by. We are going to run down Coach Tim Berida here towards the end of the show from Lincoln Southwest. The girls playing for another title. And also hear from Gary Barnett, our favorite sideline man and longtime NFLer and Husker, Jeremiah Sirles, with us at Sirles71 _ HSKR. Sirles, I'm on a Red Bull and about 7 Mountain Dews. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. I just got back from Wisconsin's Pro Day yesterday and get to hang out for about a week here before I head up to Minneapolis for the Gopher Pro Day next week.
So lay this out for me, man. Who you supporting, who you checking out? I know Nebraska's Pro Day's around the corner. We'll get to Austin Allen's Combine. I know you were up in Indy as well, but tell us a little bit about your roadie from Minnesota and your roadie you just got back from Mantown.
Yeah, so I have 2 clients up there that played for the Badgers last year. Josh Seltzner, their left guard, first team All-Big Ten, and then their fullback, John Chanel, brother of the crazy linebacker, Leo Chanel. So those 2 guys had their Pro Days yesterday. We met with Herbig, the outside linebacker for them that'll be coming out next year. We had a chance to get after him, really good player. And so got a left tackle up from Minnesota. I got a left tackle out of Fargo. Austin Allen, obviously, out of Nebraska here, and then we got a long snapper out of South Dakota State and a center out of Utah State. So I'm doing the circuit this month, hitting all those pro days, making sure I'm there, supporting my guys, anything they need, and then jump on recruiting for next year.
Jeremiah Sirles with us, Hail Varsity Radio. So, Sirles, when push comes to shove and you got to take care of some folks, what do you do for dinner? I ask this because there's a Twitter revolt towards your friend Will Compton and where he took Taylor for breakfast today in Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in Lincoln, there's only a couple spots you can go for breakfast. I mean, number one is Virginia's Cafe over there next to the old radio station.
Yes.
Like that's just an oldie but a goodie. And then number two, you got to go to, I would say, probably Green Gateau. I think those two spots in Lincoln for breakfast / brunch, they're very different. One is apple, one is oranges, but they're both very good. I'll go there, but if we're going out to dinner for sure, we're hitting up some type of steakhouse, or what we did when I took all of my offensive linemen out is we went to a Brazilian steakhouse, a little bit more bang for my buck. They don't make any money off of our group.
Okay, there you go. But when you took your guys out from Wisconsin, do you set a limit, or do you just let them get after it?
That's why I try and go to like the Fogo de Chãos or the Rodizio grills or whatever it is, where they just keep bringing around meat until you don't want it anymore. One price, it's like a higher class buffet.
That's pretty good. Sirles doing the math on that. Okay, I want to talk spring football. I know you've been away, but they're going to be hitting and popping pads tomorrow, and good for you if you're going as a former player. I'm interested on the offensive line. Coach Frost has said a couple of things, and he made a change on the offensive line. We're big Greg Austin guys, but I think Raiola can do some nice things. And I wanted your take on the O-line, specifically the fact that they're firing off the football now, and that's something that he's wanted. I'm paraphrasing what Scott said in his presser this week. What did you witness? What did you see from the O-line last year? And was physicality an issue with them?
I don't think it was necessarily an issue. I think that physicality across the whole in college football with the RPO system has taken a step back. When you're talking about, hey, you can't be downfield, or hey, on the backside of this run play / pass play, you got to maybe protect a little bit too. So it takes the stinger away for some guys, and you're seeing it with teams like Oklahoma. You're seeing it with teams like Texas, right? I mean, I think that from what I've been hearing is we're getting away from that and a little bit more down to the downhill vertical run game, which is you got to fire off the ball. You got to dead the downs, move the downs into the backers, and I'm hearing good things out of that. And so it's really, I'm sure the last few weeks of practice where you're running around out there in your underwear is great, but once you put the pads on tomorrow, you start seeing kind of who goes away and who starts rising to the top and who can actually be contributors and pretenders here as pads get put on, and who can actually do what's necessary to move a grown man from point A to point B against his will.
Sirles, well put, with moving away from the RPO, more under center. You can still spread out. You can still be tempo. What do you think of the quarterback situation Nebraska has?
I'm really excited to watch both these young quarterbacks come in. Or I guess they're kids. And Casey Thompson and Toba Purdy, I think competition's great. I think that everything I've been reading and hearing from Casey Thompson is just how much of a good leader and how much he's really kind of taken that charge on, put it on his own shoulders. And, that's something that leadership is earned, not given. And so I think he's been earning it through his summer workouts. And I heard nothing but glowing things about him, and I've heard the same thing about Chuba. I think both these guys are going to get fair shakes. And as always, you kind of set the groundwork for the fall camp during spring ball. And then, obviously you compete for your starting job in fall camp. But if you have yourself a good spring, you earn more reps in camp. And, it's just going to kind of be who's the hot hand come September and who can lead this team to win. But I think we have good options there, and I'm excited to watch these guys both start growing.
Jeremiah Sirles with us, few minutes here. Hail Varsity Radio, back from his Madison tour. And we'll be headed to Minneapolis. And Sirles, folks, if they don't know, I'm sure they can check out your Twitter, but just to kind of reset what you're doing now, obviously the broadcasting thing, yes, but what got you kind of cranked into agency work? Because you're doing a great job with all the kids you're representing.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, for me, I finished up a 6-year career in the NFL and was kind of like, now what? Broadcasting is great, but, I wanted to use what I say, I have a PhD in football, right? I got 6 years post-grad in football. What do you do with it? Well, you can coach, but I don't really want to move my family every 5 years in a different city every time. So, I love the mentorship and the teaching piece of football, and this gives me a chance to do that. We signed 4 linemen this year, so we have a good group put together in our agency, and it allows me to kind of be more hands-on, and I get to select the kids I want to work with and get a chance to stay around both college and the NFL, and it's been really, really fun and really enjoyable so far.
What stuck out about Austin Allen? Obviously, he's a Husker, but a tight end. And talk to me about Austin and what did you think of Indy for him?
Yeah, so, Austin, obviously I've watched every snap of Austin Allen film for the last 4 years, and I was blown away that he didn't have a ton of, guys coming after him when we were recruiting him. And I was like, man, we're going to steal one here, boys. And we've just been super thankful that he chose to work with us. And, it started with working to get him a PA invite, got him the NFL PA Bowl. He went there and absolutely had a great week, played himself into a combine invite, and he goes to the combine. And, yeah, everyone fawns over the 40 times, and he had a good 40 time. It wasn't great. But what he was amazing at? His agility drills were incredible. 7-flat L drill, which ranked number 1 in all tight ends. He had a 4.12 pro agility, which ranked 2nd in tight ends. And then his L drill actually held up to be number 3 overall between all tight ends and receivers. And so NFL teams that look at him and go, 6'8", 250, 255 pounds, can he bend? Can he move? He answered a ton of those questions, those agility drills, and he had such great natural hands running through the gauntlet drills. And he really had a really solid showing, and I think he helped himself and he moved the needle, right? And so all you need is one team to fall in love with him, or you need one team to get afraid that the teams drafting behind him are going to fall in love with him and take him. So, I think that there's a lot of buzz leaving the combine for him, and excited to see what he can do at Pro Day here.
Jeremiah Sirles with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Sirles, is there anything through the pre-draft process, whether it be on-field drills at the combine, whether it be the interviews, is there anything that the average fan sitting at home watching these Huskers might not get to see, but actually weighs pretty heavily into an NFL team's decision? Just something that the average fan might not think about?
So the average fan, the thing that is so stressful about the combine is not the on-field workouts. It's not the physical performance. It's the mental fatigue that these kids go through at the combine. Guys are sitting in hospitals for 8 to 9 hours 2 days before they work out because they need to have one MRI. And Austin actually had to get moved to another hospital because the MRI machine broke, and then all of a sudden you haven't eaten, and then you're tired, and then you go right into formal interviews, right? We have to be on and firing, and teams are trying to catch you off guard. And the combine physically, yes, is a test, but it's just as much a test mentally of, hey, can we wear you out mentally? Can we break you down and then have you still go perform at an extremely high level physically on the field? And, I think that's a huge piece as to the evaluation for what these kids can do. And that's not something everyone gets to see on the outside world, but it's definitely something that has internal discussions on the inside.
Sirles, a thought with what you can share. Was there? You mentioned that Austin moved the needle with his performance. Was there a lot of reaction you got from front offices in the NFL after what he did?
A lot of the reaction was more along the lines of we knew he could run, we knew he can catch the ball. We were just more concerned, can he bend? Because Nebraska doesn't have a super complex route tree for tight ends. They just don't. Right? Trey McBride, the number 1 tight end at CSU, he runs every route on the field because he was their entire offense. So, Austin Allen ran a lot of corners, he ran a lot of seams, and he kind of ran a lot of, just turnaround hitch routes. He wasn't able to put on his full range, and he went down and worked with Anquan Bolden down at XPE in Florida, and he really worked on his routes. And so for him, it was a lot of, they knew what he could do, but there were some question marks of what can you do based off of just lack of film. And I think when you compare the film of what he's been able to show at Nebraska with the combine workout, I really think that's what moved the needle for him, because it checked a lot of boxes that teams had questions on.
Going to go to the NFL. Your take on Russell to Denver?
Oh, man, AFC West. I will be glued to the AFC West watching that, especially now with Khalil Mack getting traded to the Chargers, right? I mean, that division is just loaded with that's going to be some incredible games. But, I mean, anytime you sign a quarterback the caliber of Russell Wilson, you put yourself in contention for the playoffs every year.
If you're Seattle, do you draft? Do you work with Locke? Do you have any answer?
I don't know. You don't leave. You don't let Russell Wilson walk out the door unless you have a really serious plan for what you're about to do. So very curious to see what they do. Drew Lock is absolutely not the answer. He is horrendous. So I hope that they have some type of draft guy that they're looking at to trade up or see what's going to be there whenever they pick, because you got to do something quick here. But I also don't think we haven't seen the last of franchise quarterbacks getting traded around the league.
Sirles, I don't want to jump ahead of you here, Schmitty, but I heard the Drew Lock slander there, and as a Broncos fan, I can't disagree. He's not up to snuff as an NFL quarterback, but could you see the Seahawks doing some sort of stopgap thing for a year with Drew Lock when you look at some of the quarterbacks coming down the pipe in college football with Bryce Young, you got C.J. Stroud, just all this talent in quarterback, and then you look at the quarterbacks this year, and it doesn't seem up to snuff. Is that a strategy that an NFL team could actually pull off successfully to say, hey, we don't like the quarterbacks this year, but let's look a little bit down the road, or do you have to look at this current year?
You know, that really depends on what they want to do with some of their free agents, right? I mean, you got really good receivers in Lockett and Metcalf, and I mean, it's like, do we waste a year of these guys? That's the question you have to ask yourself as a front office guy: is, are we willing to waste a year of these receivers where we might not be able to sign them back in free agency, or do we try and find a Ryan Fitzpatrick as a stopgap? Right? There's a lot better options out there than Drew Lock. I think that if that's the route they go, you'll see them sign a veteran like Tyrod Taylor or, Taylor Heineke, or someone that's played some good football recently and can go out there, win you 7-8 games, and then you put some pieces around him, maybe your 10-win team, right? I think Seattle's too good of a team right now to just tank for whatever we're going to do next year. They have too much talent around them.
Wentz to Washington. Thumbs up on that. What do you say about Carson? I don't think he was awful in Indy, but wasn't as good as I guess he needed to be.
He's the poor man's Phillip Rivers. I mean, that's just what he is. I mean, I feel bad for him. He keeps getting traded around like a leper, but I think he's a solid stopgap quarterback. He's never going to win you. He's not the Carson Wentz that took the Eagles to the playoffs before he got hurt. On that Super Bowl run year, he's just never really come back. But again, we talk about the stopgaps, right? I think that's a team that you look at and they felt like with the defense that they have, they're really close. And Carson could be a missing piece with that, and they want to go compete against Dallas every year in that division.
Jimmy G, is he on his way out into San Francisco, try and lure Brady for one more year out of retirement?
No, you can't bring Brady in if you draft Trey Lance number 3 overall, right?
I don't think so either. I'm just that's floating out there, Sirles.
I know it is. If I'm John Lynch over at the 49ers, I'm going, you know what? We drafted this kid 3 overall. He had some decent showings last year. I think that you maybe keep Jimmy through training camp, let those two battle it out. And then unless Jimmy has some crazy roster bonus or something, maybe you try and move him right before season.
Sirles, last thought here, about 30 seconds. And with the last thought, I want to go back to the combine. And it didn't really fit with our earlier conversation, but I want to get your take on it. Jordan Davis from Georgia, 343 pounds, running 4.78. Would that strike fear into your heart as an offensive lineman?
No, I'm glad I don't play in the league anymore and I don't have to block those animals. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy, but he's an absolute freak show.
4.78 at 340 is not normal, man. That's crazy.
10-1 broad.
And he'll go extremely high.
Yeah, 10-foot broad jump.
I know.
Insane.
I mean, that's
insane.
That's Elijah and Sirles numbers, man. Sirles, no be way. Good. Best to you and your family. Have a good trip to Minnesota.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys. Go Big Red.
There he is. Thanks to Sirles. Coach Barnett's on the way.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio lesson?
On Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back into it, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Playoff basketball going on, state tournament time at PBA. Little football now with Gary Barnett with us, Hall of Fame coach, Northwestern and Colorado. and, of course, Missouri. Coach, your Northwestern Wildcats ended the Nebraska basketball season, and some are saying thank you just because of how up and down the year's been. Did you get a chance to watch any hoops yesterday, or were you putting for dough?
No, I was putting for dough yesterday, so I did not get a chance to watch. So I got 36 in on Sunday, 28 Monday, 28 Tuesday, but only not 18 yesterday. So
sounds like the driver's fixed. Good work.
It's temporary, Chris. Temporary.
I like that. So I got to ask you, you had Tiger Woods do the Golf Hall of Fame induction yesterday. He had his daughter do his acceptance speech and enshrinement speech. Did you ever have anyone do a speech for you with your Hall of Fames?
No, I didn't. I did those myself, and they were nerve-wracking because you want to say the right thing. But no, I did those myself. The one at Missouri they gave me exactly 2 minutes, and I mean, I was watching everybody else go through theirs, and they got the hook out at 2 minutes, and so people got a chance to only finish half of theirs. So wow. I'm about the 10th, 8th, or 9th person to go on. So I start from the bottom of my speech and work backwards so that I got the most important things in, and then the things I couldn't get in were the things that weren't all that important that I was going to start with anyway. So, but it was a good strategy for me.
Well, that's awful when you hear the Oscars music playing at your own Hall of Fame speech.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, they grab you. That's it.
I would have thought on Mark Whipple, and Coach Whipple has been working with the quarterbacks. Coach Whipple's pretty blunt with things, and Nebraska will have full contact tomorrow for a scrimmage. Coach, what are your thoughts with Chubba Purdy specifically? And he's limited this spring, should be more readily available post-spring break, which is 2 weeks away, from today is when Nebraska will get back at it. So what do you kind of recall with Purdy, seeing him as a prospect and then going to Florida State? What's his ceiling look like to you?
Well, I think I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, he has shown potential, but he wasn't one of those guys that you just said automatically he's going to do it. He's going to be a great player. So in some ways that's really good because it's the late developers that are more important that end up helping you and becoming a great player more so than many of the early developers. So I think that's the way you've got to look at him, that he's going to have some time to develop, and he's certainly got all the skills to do it.
What's the deal with, and maybe you have no idea, but there's been 3 media meetings with Whipple, and 2 of the 3, the guy hasn't worn shoes. Now, he's been indoors, but is there a little shoeless Joe love from Whipple, or what's the deal? Any theory at all?
I can't help you with that, so I have no idea about his hygiene. Well, but he sounds like to me he needs to clean it up.
Well, I mean, he just didn't wear shoes, and that was pretty evident. Offensive line play, that's been praised by Scott Frost, already seeing a difference with Donnie Raiola with just how Nebraska's firing off the ball. More downhill is the intention. Coach Barnett, what have you noticed, or what have you taken with Nebraska's O-line play the last few years? Why do you think it's struggled? Because they've gone after talented kids. Has it been more of a scheme deal with what they came to Nebraska with from Central Florida?
I'm not totally sure on that, Chris, but here's what I do know about offensive line play. Offensive linemen, first of all, it's a cerebral position, and everybody thinks of it as being a big muscle mass and bulldozer kind of effect, but it really isn't. It's very cerebral, and the more cerebral you make it, the slower you play. And so my guess it's a combination of what you said and what I just suggested. In other words, players play faster when you have a simpler scheme and when it's something that's easy to absorb. So my guess some of that's going on. I do think that sometimes in the schemes from Florida, Central Florida, and a lot of that spread stuff, you get away without a lot of fundamentals. And the offense can let you play with guys that are less fundamentally trained. And so my guess is a combination of they've simplified it, but at the same time made each player more fundamentally sound with their technique. So it's usually that combination, and it's hard to put your finger on it right now, or for me from a distance. But that's usually what has made a difference. When I have a change in offensive line coaches, is one, it becomes easier to understand, and two, it's simplified so that they don't have to think so much; they can just play.
What were your two big questions when you were interviewing and deciding on offensive line coaches when you were sitting down with them?
Protection, and then for me, protection for what we were trying to do, and it's the exotic blitzes that get you, and so you've got to have a way to adjust. The guys that can adjust, you can throw a situation at them, and they get on the board right away, and they go, well, here's what you got to do. So a guy with that kind of knowledge. And then secondly, somebody that's a really good teacher, because offensive line play requires more teaching than anything else, any other position. So how I felt about their teaching ability and their desire to teach, that has a lot to do with it as well, because some guys just want to tell kids what to do. Other guys want to teach them how to do it. And so I was looking for the teacher.
Gary Barnett with us, couple of minutes, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, you had a top 25 list of coaches come out by The Athletic this week. Let's take Saban off the table because of what he's done. But who are three of the top coaches in college football to you right now? Who are three guys, if Gary's wearing the AD hat, you'd go try and hire?
Oh, boy, I didn't see that one coming.
You sound disappointed.
First of all, Kirk Ferentz, okay. Now, he's probably a little too old for me to go hire, but that guy, you just can't do what he's done without being a solid, good football coach and in a situation where he doesn't get all the best players. So I think Kirk Ferentz, I think Pat Fitzgerald is another guy that jumps right out to me. And you know what? I think Sonny Dykes is really a good football coach as well. I really like Sonny Dykes, and who's now the new TCU coach. So those guys jump out to me more than anything else.
Those are some names, and Kirk and Fitzy have done a great job, and they are, would you say that they are best at development? Is that fair, or do you think they are really killer at evaluation? I think they do both well.
Oh, I think you got to do both well. I really do. And I don't want to take Dabo Swinney out of that mix because I think he's done a phenomenal job as well. So I'd have to have a tie there, a four-way tie. But yeah, I think when you're at both those places, Iowa and Northwestern, you've got to do a great job of evaluation, but you have to develop players. That's as important as anything.
Coach, different rules today with the amount of scrimmage, I should say contact you can have. If you were coaching today, how would you get your team physically tough and good at tackling and good at taking hits because, it's so limited?
Well, I'm still a believer that I'm not sure how much tackling you can teach. I think guys are either tacklers or they're not. So I'd start with recruiting on tackling. But with spring ball, you're so limited, and everybody's worried about injuries and those sort of things with your roster the way it is. To me, spring ball was, one, find yourself defensive players because that's more important than spring, coming out of spring, than anything else. Your offense is going to get better over the summer and going into the fall. It'll develop, but you come out of spring with your defense pretty well set, and if it's good, you're going to be okay, and if it's not, it's going to be a struggle all fall. So that was my thought always, that let's make sure our defense is sound first. We can get our offense to come around.
Coach, have you ran out and bought your Russell Wilson jersey yet?
No, I'm slowing down on that enthusiasm. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm a fan of his. I really am, but we'll have to see. They gave up a lot for Russell.
Do you get to many Denver games or no?
No, I don't get to any pro games. I'm usually playing golf on Sunday afternoons, Chris.
Okay, well, I thought there's a window of football before swinging away and putting for dough, man. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
We got a major problem in our household because I don't know how many Russell Wilson jerseys Mama and Junior have. Now they're going to have to trade them for Denver jerseys. Even the dog
it'll be costly for Dad.
Of course it will. Absolutely. Well, Coach, I'll wave at you down in Arizona next week, all right?
All right, Chris. Have a great trip.
Good to hear from Coach Gary Barnett. Hail Varsity Radio as we are gearing up for Gretna and Millard North. So the key component here is, of course, Mr. Official standing in the way of said Twitter picture. See if that works. So, Elijah, have you done the old season ticket purchase thing or no?
No.
Are you getting there with Denver?
No. That's a long trip every single weekend, and that's a lot of money.
Take the train, dude.
It's a lot of money still. Tell you what, if I hit it big in trucks and bucks.
Well, and you have the, you know what, man? You absolutely have the vehicle to do it. That's pretty good. We'll check in with Coach Tim Baird, Lincoln Southwest girls, back for another state championship run. Coach Baird next. It's Hail Varsity, courtside here at PBA. We're in front of Gretna Millard North on ESPN Lincoln.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmidt on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery here on the road. PBA, about 14 minutes and change till things tip off on ESPN locally. ESPN Lincoln locally, ESPN.com. Millard North, your defending state champs, warming up right in front of us as we're courtside. As Jason Green just drilling a three. Gretna off to our left, warming up the Feakin-led Dragons, and should be awesome. Jeff Smith will be on the call with me tonight, Hall of Fame coach and assistant with Coach Nee. He kicked the show off with us. Elijah, do we have Coach Bairda with us, sir?
Indeed we do.
Tim Bairda, head coach, Lincoln Southwest girls. State champs in 2017, runner-up in 19, and playing for the title tomorrow. They knocked down Millard South yesterday. Coach Bairda, thanks for the time, and it's wonderful to spend a few minutes with you. Congrats on last night. How are you?
I'm doing great today, Chris. You know, it's one of those things, anytime you win state tournament games, it's good. Anytime you can find a way to beat an undefeated team, it's good. So, good day today.
So, what was the game plan, and discuss the execution? I thought your defense, I've seen your kids, Coach Bairda, quite a bit, and I've seen the Southwest girls this year, and they are skilled and talented, and you guys coach at a super high level. But, man, the buy-in you get defensively, touch on the game plan, what you wanted to do against such an explosive team yesterday in Millard South.
Well, they shoot the ball so well. in the sense of from the three-point line. They got 5 or 6 kids that are really good shooters. So we keyed in on their top 2, and Maya Babbitt, averages about 19 a game, and we let Kennedy Williams guard her, and she absolutely gave her fit. Kennedy's pretty relentless when it comes to defending, but then you have to also consider things where anytime she would get beat, get by somebody, there was always our next help defender there to rotate and cover and be able to be in position to help when needed. We got into a scramble mode a few times where we would pick up a shooter and somebody else would have to rotate and get to the next shooter. And I thought, big picture, we did a really good job of that. And then in turn, I thought we rebounded the ball real well. We didn't give up a lot of second chance baskets. But big picture is I think our defense caused some issues for them. Their press usually is a bigger factor for them. Our kids had a lot of buy-in and how we wanted to run our press break, and they really did exactly what we had talked about in walkthrough. So that's to my kids' credit of being able to execute what we talked about, because Millard South's used to getting a lot of transition baskets and transition threes off of turnovers. And I was telling our kids today, I think we finished the game with either 9 or 10 turnovers, which against that team is really good number.
Coach, you guys were up double digits, and that hadn't happened to an unbeaten Millard South squad. It got closer towards the end of the fourth quarter, and you used a couple of timeouts, and you guys made some free throws and took care of the ball. But were your kids, I should say, ready for that moment, or did you have to calm them down a little bit?
Well, I think our kids were ready for it. There are not a lot of people that believed that we could win the game. I think people watched us on Monday and defended Central really well, and we kept their big guns really limited them. But Millard South being undefeated and only a handful of games are really within 10. But our kids, as the game progressed, we had a great start. That's the first part. But as the game progressed, our kids believed that they could win the game. As the game progressed, I thought Millard South got tighter and tighter. That's a tough spot to be in as an undefeated team trying to run the table. So, that we talked about that being in our favor as well. The longer we could be in the lead, and by golly, if we weren't in the lead from all 32 minutes. So to answer the question of were our kids rattled or frazzled a little bit, I think a little bit, but I think it was more fatigue. I don't know if you noticed, Kennedy Williams played all 32 minutes, and that was two things. One, she's capable of doing that, but number two is she had a deep thigh bruise from our game on Monday, and had treatment on top of treatment Monday night, all day Tuesday. She didn't do anything Tuesday in practice, and, as far as physical stuff, and then treatment Wednesday morning. We weren't sure how capable she was going to be, but so once she got going, I didn't want to have her sit down. She kept moving at halftime and things like that. So some of that was, and I don't know if you noticed that when she was going to, she'd missed 2 free throws, which she doesn't do. I called her over after she got fouled. She got a steal. It was a 4-point game, and I just called her over and bought as much time as I could before the refs got mad at me. And then I said, we're going to call timeout and just let you relax. And they did. So, our kids did enough things. I thought Karen Ling and Anaya and McKenna, just did enough things right. I thought Vogel was huge off of the bench, and Freddie made some big plays. She didn't have a very good offensive night, but I thought she made some big plays, rebounding the basketball and making blocks and things like that. So, as a collective group, I was really happy with the composure our kids had for a majority of the game.
Tim Hurrdat with us, head coach, Lincoln Southwest, the girls back in the state championship. Championship Friday, 6 p.m. right here on ESPN Lincoln with Coach Hurrdat and Southwest. Coach, a couple of minutes here before we got to say goodbye, but a thought on Fremont. You've seen them. You know the town well. And how excited are you for tomorrow night?
Well, it's a great opportunity, no matter who you play when you get to the state tournament. For me, being a Fremont guy, it's a big deal, but it's still just a game. in the sense of once we get to the game. Now, you think about it, and it's an all Heartland Athletic Conference final with us in Fremont. Fremont boat raced us in the holiday tournament by, I think, like 27. And then we went up to their place in mid-January and had a pretty good run, and they ended up beating us 4. So I think our kids know that we're able to do things to make things hard for them. Can we do it consistently? Taylor Mccabe is outstanding, the Iowa recruit. She is just flat a really, really good high school player. You know, she just got Gatorade Player of the Year and things like that. So obviously you got to figure out how to slow her down. But, you know, you get to a state final, and it's a situation where, you know, all the hubbub and all the stuff that goes on, and then when it comes down to it, you're playing a team that you know a lot about. You're very familiar. We know tendencies. We know what they're going to try and do. It's going to become a matter of wills and who can do things, you know, the little plays, the 50-50 balls and those things. But, you know, we've talked for 3 days now about just staying in the fight. Just stay in the fight and see what happens. Give yourself a chance. And if you do that, you know, you get some opportunities at the end of the day, and that's what happened, you know, both Monday and Wednesday for us, because we did not shoot free throws well either day. We missed 9 in the fourth quarter on Monday, and I think we missed 8 in the fourth quarter yesterday. But if you would say that you could still win a state tournament quarterfinal, a state tournament semifinal, shooting free throws like that, that means you did a boatload of things correct during the game to give yourself that opportunity.
Coach, excited to be on the call with ESPN Lincoln and see you this year, and best to you and your kids tomorrow night. Thanks so much.
All right, Chris, we thank you. Thanks for supporting girls basketball.
All right, there he is. Fantastic coach, great kids, wonderful team. Tim Hurrdat with Southwest. A quick timeout. We'll preview Gretna Millard North next on ESPN Lincoln.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time here at PBA. It's the Class A semis here, Gretna and Millard North. It is a jam-packed PBA. All of Gretna in the student section to my right, and all the proud parents and folks just about 45 minutes away, dressed in black with that green trim behind us. Jeff Smith back with us, and Coach Cannon has his kids rallied around for Millard North. Coach Smith, good to see you again. Ready for the nightcap, my friend?
Good to be back. You betcha I am. I'm looking forward to this one.
Well, Red Bull in hand, let's rock and roll. We'll step away here in about 2 minutes and get ready for tip-off. But quick thoughts on Millard North and Gretna. Gretna's done well against a really tough schedule. They've not only played well, but they've won. They've won against some big dogs. They do it. Coach Feakin, tremendous coach. Coach Cannon, Hall of Famer, obviously. And they're trying to go back-to-back.
Yeah, and you know, Gretna seems to almost play better when they're the underdog and playing the big dogs like a Millard North. And they haven't played them, but you know, they split with Bell West. They beat Southwest. They beat Central. They've beaten some really good teams. Really, the teams that play with them and have beat them are teams that are like them. Pious, hard-nosed, execution, fundamentally sound team. They beat them. Lincoln East beat them. Same thing. Fundamentally sound, don't beat themselves. And that's what Gretna does. They just typically beat themselves. But this is the defending state champ. They're playing with a Division I player that's 6'8" and can run and dunk and shoot in Jason Green. So they're going to have to take care of the basketball and try to get the same shots that they usually get, which they've done pretty much throughout the year. They're going to have to try to rebound with Millard North. They're going to have to take away break with Millard North. But that's their formula in beating these teams, and they've done it all year. So it's just a little bigger stage tonight, and Millard North's been here before at this Class A level.
Jeff Smith, Hall of Fame coach, Chris Schmidt, as we are courtside, as I told you, all of Gretna is here. And there is a lot of excitement here at PBA. Elijah Herba will produce. And we will be ready for tip-off as we'll transition out of Hail Varsity Radio. Podcast will be up. Many thanks to those who tuned in. And can always give us a rating, good, bad, or ugly. Want to hear the feedback? Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity Radio. We'll take a timeout and flip it over here locally on ESPN Lincoln for Millard North, Gretna. Class A semis next, Boys State 2022 with ESPN Lincoln.